Overall, it's a film worth checking out. Watch it for excellent performances from Pankaj Kapoor, Rajkumar Yadav, Ashutosh Rana. It's a slow burn with awesome camera work with a lot of धूल मिट्टी पसीना. मुझे ऐसा लगा कि फिल्म का मकसद है थॉट प्रोवोक करना उन चीज़ों के बारे में जो शायद कॉमन मैन ऑलरेडी जानता है बट वो कहीं भूल गया है बिकॉज ऑफ द मॉडर्न डे प्रायोरिटीज़. And the whole COVID lockdown situation just acts as a backdrop for raising those topics. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Fillam podcast. मैं हूँ आपका host मुन्ना रंगीला and I'm here to share quick thoughts on the film Bheed. Let me start with what I loved about the film. So Bheed opens with a quiet shot in the dark. We see train tracks and we hear a few footsteps approaching. And we see a few people walking along those train tracks with what looks like their luggage and their food. And then someone gets an injury and the group decides to rest by the tracks and have some food. And as they rest, the dialogues start pouring, setting the context for why they are having to walk by the tracks in the thick of the night. And then someone else opens up the food supplies, they start eating, and the conversations continue while I, as the viewer, am constantly dreading the arrival of the train, especially after seeing a baby among them. The scene is almost dipped in the haunt of the prospect of a train coming through. It's beautifully executed and this set my expectations up for the rest of the film. Soon after that, I loved seeing Pankaj Kapoor on the screen. He plays a security guard who is looking after his community's trip back to their village, अपने गांव जा रहे हैं, in a bus because of the lockdowns. In my opinion, it is Pankaj Kapoor who holds the film standards up until the end. Then there is another sequence which I loved, which brings Ashutosh Rana and Rajkumar Yadav onto the screen. They both play policemen, with Ashutosh Rana being the senior one among the two. They arrive at a site, ठीक है, जहाँ पे कुछ चल रहा है, जहाँ पे कुछ scene है. And as soon as their jeep comes to a halt, Rajkumar Yadav gets out of the back of the jeep and starts running towards the crowd, जहाँ पे कोई scene है. But he notices Ashutosh Rana, who got out from the front of the jeep, and then they both look at each other for a fleeting moment. फिर राजकुमार नज़र चुरा लेता है because Ashutosh has a clear air of authority and Rajkumar has some sense of fear from him. So Rajkumar realizes that Ashutosh is the one in charge, and so he stops running and lets Ashutosh take the lead. So in the first 2 seconds of this scene, their relationship is established. मेरे को ये बोलने में ज़्यादा टाइम लगा है जितना ये परफॉर्म करने में लगा होगा, ठीक है? And this beautiful scene continues on from here. So they move closer to the site and a villager walks towards Ashutosh, kneels down in front of him, folds his hands and starts begging for help. And Ashutosh instructs him to get up and speak, which is a great choice of a scene, ठीक है? Not just because it is a representative of the actual behavior of the common village folk when they see cops in real life, but also because it clarifies that Ashutosh doesn't expect to position himself as someone with superior power. He wants people to stand up for themselves. He wants them to speak up for themselves. All of this while he also gestures Rajkumar to go ahead, find out what's happening. तो यहाँ पे इस विलेजर को बोल रहा है कि अरे खड़े होके बात करो, एंड राजकुमार को साइमल्टेनियसली इंस्ट्रक्ट कर रहा है कि पता करके आ, उसके एक आशुतोष राणा के एक हाथ में फ़ोन है और वो फ़ोन ऐसे साइड की तरफ पॉइंट करके बोल रहा है कि पता करो. So it's a very, very nicely done scene. And it still continues. Rajkumar starts running towards the crowd at first and then quickly goes back to the jeep, to grab his water bottle as he realizes कि situation में पानी का कोई scene है. While this happens, we also see the old villager explaining what happened on site. और background में Rajkumar is making his rounds to and from the jeep and instructing the other police people कि अच्छा ऐसा करो, ठीक है. और कैमरा उसके हिसाब से एडजस्ट होता है. इट्स अ कंटिन्यूस शॉट, कट नहीं है बीच में. इट्स अ ब्यूटिफुली एग्जीक्यूटेड सीन. आई थिंक इट्स वर्थ वॉचिंग. और फिर व्हेन राजकुमार एंड आशुतोष लीव द साइट, दे हैव अ कॉन्वर्सेशन इन द जीप इटसेल्फ. दोनों कैरेक्टर्स के लेयर्स पील ऑफ हो रहे हैं यहाँ पे एक के बाद एक. राजकुमार कम्स अक्रॉस एज अ सिंसियर ऑप्टिमिस्ट, someone who has faith in the system, someone who respects authority. He also reveals his actual name to Ashutosh, which is supposedly from a lower caste, and he does this quite proudly. He also shares कि सरकार कुछ कर रही है. He shares his hopes कि government will take care of the crisis. वो truthful है और काफ़ी sincere है as a character. Ashutosh on the other hand comes across as a curious realist. Ashutosh is inquisitive about his people, he's inquisitive about the situation, he asks some valid questions and he expresses some annoyance about the answers क्योंकि उसको पता है कि यहाँ पे इसका जवाब उसके पास नहीं होगा या फिर इसका जवाब ऐसा ही कुछ होगा. और फिर every few seconds he gets a call on his phone because he's an important man apparently, and almost immediately within a blink of an eye he changes his tone क्योंकि वो किसी सीनियर से बात कर रहे थे. He's like, Jai Hind sir Jai Hind. So I think it's a very well written character, very well executed as well by Ashutosh. Finally, both of them, Ashutosh and Rajkumar, they get to the place of action, the checkpoint, the Naka. And from here on, the core plot of the movie actually starts. And there is lots to see in the next 100 minutes from here. So इस point के बाद मेरी कुछ शिकायतें हैं इस फिल्म से. One of which is there is an extended 2-part lovemaking scene establishing the dynamic between Rajkumar and Bhumi. I personally felt that this didn't add much to the film itself. फिर there is a crew of press people, including a photographer, and all of them engage in some sort of a preachy social commentary. फिर every now and again you get to see shots of the migrant workers and how they are spending their idle time at the site जहाँ पे blockage है. The film almost repetitively does this, and after the first couple of times this happens, I felt कि अच्छा ये already established कर चुके हो तुम, and now you should use your remaining time to advance the main plots. It was refreshing to see Dia Mirza bringing in an urban perspective. She could have been used much better. In सब के बीच में I loved the portrayal of this real life character called Jyoti Kumari. So it's a true story of a 15-year-old girl who reportedly took her father from the city to her home in her village, cycling a total distance of 1200 kilometers. Wow. And I just loved seeing how her story intersected with the rest of the film's arc. Something else that didn't quite sit right with me was that the film neither felt like a character-driven story nor a plot-driven story. So थोड़ा ज्ञान मैं दे रहा हूँ यहाँ पे, ठीक है? Don't mind. A character-driven story is one where the focus will be more on the character development than on the plot development. In a character-driven film, you feel fully engaged with the character, you become more focused on their personal journey, their emotions, and the reasons why they make their choices and decisions. On the other hand, a plot-driven film is one where you're focused much more on the action and advancing the plot. Most films will generally be a blend of the two. So it's the focus that matters. So just to throw in some examples, films like Mad Max or Inception or The Big Short or Spotlight, or in the Indian context, films like Kahani, A Wednesday, Tumbar, they are all excellent examples of plot-driven films. So throughout these films, the characters' layers get peeled off one by one and you learn more about them, but the but the characters themselves don't massively change during the course of the film. They just advance the film's plot, while the film focuses on the bigger set pieces, the twists, the turns, and keep the momentum of the plot going. On the other hand, films like Whiplash or The Joker with Joaquin Phoenix, or a film like Tare Zameen Par or Devdas or Devdi, they are great examples of character-led films. Now coming back to Bheed, it kind of dabbles in both of these styles of storytelling without committing or prioritizing or doing justice to one towards the end. And to be fair, one doesn't quite need to pick a style all the same, but it helps the viewer if you do. The way Bheed begins, it feels like a plot-driven film, and then Rajkumar's character took center stage for a little bit, and then so many other formidable actors kind of stole the show. I, as the viewer, was confused on whether I should root for Rajkumar's character or the little girl on the bicycle, or wait for Dia Mirza's character to influence the plot, or root for Pankaj Kapoor's character. Or should I care about the general advancement of the conflict? कि भाई कोविड सिचुएशन है, lives are at stake, people are stuck, नाके पे इतना राड़ा हो रहा है. So in the end, I just didn't quite understand what I should focus on. I was expecting the film to turn up the tension, increase the stakes, show chaos at multiple sides, and reach some sort of a crescendo. The film does have a climax, of course. I personally believe it could have been way more deeply felt than what it was in the end. मुझे ऐसा लगा कि फिल्म का मकसद है थॉट प्रोवोक करना, उन चीज़ों के बारे में जो शायद कॉमन मैन ऑलरेडी जानता है, बट वो कहीं भूल गया है because of the modern day priorities. And the whole COVID lockdown situation just acts as a backdrop for raising those topics. Overall, it's a film worth checking out. Watch it for excellent performances from Pankaj Kapoor, Rajkumar Yadav, Ashutosh, Rana. It's a slow burn with awesome camera work, with a lot of dhool mitti pasina, along with some social commentary. It's streaming on Netflix, so go watch. Alright, that brings us to the end of this edition of the Fillam Podcast. Leave a comment, hit the like button to tell us you enjoyed hanging out. Until we meet again, peace out.